Hey y'all, welcome to my pages, y'all. My name is Lacey, and this is Black History Sunday. I have a show that I do earlier in the day called Welcome to called Rise and Shine with Lacey Jeter. I was about to say Welcome to Rise and Shine with Lacey Jeter. Um, so welcome to my channel. If you are new, I am live. I'm gonna be waiting on a few people to come on live, but today we're gonna be talking about colorism. Today we're gonna be talking about the history of colorism, and we're gonna be talking about the history of texturism, right? Specifically with the Black community, right? Because colorism and texturism are things that are actually global. It's actually a global issue, but we're going to be talking about it specifically with the Black community today, specifically within the United States of America. All right. So that's what we're going to be talking about today for our Black History Sunday. Again, if you are on YouTube, please subscribe, follow, like, share. I just started posting back on YouTube. It's been about 2 weeks, and I really do appreciate the support when people want to share my content, when people, want to get involved with what I do. It's highly appreciated. So definitely like, subscribe, follow. If you're on Facebook or my other socials, definitely follow. It's highly appreciated. But today we're going to be talking about colorism, right? So the history behind colorism, kind of going into the roots of it, and then also talking about it today in society, colorism within Hollywood, colorism within the different sectors, and then we're going to do a brief overview of texturism, right? So that's what we're going to be doing today. But yes, I'm going to go ahead and start our live. So let's talk about how colorism began. So a lot of people get racism and colorism mixed up, right? There is a huge difference between colorism and racism. So colorism is when people of the same race group or minority group or ethnic group are discriminating against one another based on the shade of their skin. So this would be a Black person discriminating against another Black person because maybe the Black person was darker skinned. This could be also in the Asian, Indian, Latino, Hispanic community as well. We have to understand colorism is a global issue. It happens in multiple race groups and multiple ethnic groups. So it's not something that just stops at the Black community, right? It happens all over. But again, today we're going to be focusing mainly on colorism within the Black community just because this is our Black History Sunday. Right. So again, colorism started back in the slave days, right? It all started with the transatlantic slave trade, right? And so when millions of slaves were brought to the United States, right? They were then put to labor, and then in that process of having the slaves, many of the slaves would get R-worded, right? Molested, right? And so in result, because there was a lot going on with the slave masters between the African slaves, these babies would be born, which would create biracial children, biracial slaves, right? Which then created lighter skinned Black slaves, right? And within these households and these slave plantations, the lighter skinned slaves would be treated much better, right? They would be treated and seen as more beautiful, right? And so even after slavery ended, lighter skinned African Americans would get more opportunities, right? And it'll be easier for them to just navigate society in the United States, right? So that's where slavery began. And then we had the paper bag test, which I'm about to show this TikTok of this older woman talking about the paper bag test and how that really influenced and really I guess, affected the Black community, right? And so the paper bag test was, if you were lighter than a paper bag, you were considered a higher class citizen. You were considered more important, more beautiful, smarter, more intelligent, all these things, just better, right? If you were darker than a paper bag, then you were considered less good. You were considered less beautiful, less smart. You weren't given as many opportunities, right? And life was just harder for you, right? So I'm about to show this video talking about the paper bag test, just because y'all can have more insight into what happened with this, with the paper, with what they did at that time. So let me pull this up really quick. Let me play this video.
Hey, Auntie Bev here. Let's talk about the brown paper bag test, shall we? You know, white people weren't the only ones discriminating against blacks during the Jim Crow era. There was a segment of black society, the lighter-skinned blacks, the elite society, that also discriminated against other black people. If you were darker than a paper bag, you wouldn't be permitted to attend any of their events. You wouldn't be accepted into any fraternities or sororities, and in some instances, you would be denied application into colleges and universities. Ironically, the brown paper bag test really dates back to slavery, where slave owners would rape enslaved black women and produce biracial children. Those children were permitted to work inside the home, while the darker-skinned blacks were forced to labor in the fields. The brown paper bag test. It was real and a part of Black history. And as you can see, I would have been excluded. Auntie Bev speaks.
Okay. So, right? So we had this paper bag test, right? As our Miss Auntie, as she told y'all, it was pretty much a hierarchy, right? It was almost like a pass. Like, if you were lighter than the paper bag, it was a pass into better accesses and better things into society, right? And so even our people to this day are still highly influenced by this paper bag test, right? So that is pretty much, I guess, a really small overview summary of how this colorism issue came to be, right? And then colorism was also something that was definitely starting to be shown in the family dynamics, right? If it was, the darker skin family members versus the lighter skin family members, the lighter skin family members get treated better than the darker skin family members. You had parents who would hate on their own children just because they were darker skin, right? You see this a lot. There's actually a few videos on YouTube. There's this one video specifically with this. It looked like this video was probably like around 2000. It was one of the talk shows. I forgot which talk show it was. I think it was the Tyra Banks show, if I'm not mistaken. But on the show, we had a mother who was talking down on her darker skinned kids, and the kids were having an intervention with the mother, right? And just telling the mom how they hurt her, how they hurt them, how they weren't treating them right. I think it was specifically, there was a darker skinned sister, and then there was a lighter skinned sister, and this darker skinned sister was on the show pretty much saying, I feel bad because, as a mother, you didn't treat me right. You always put me down. You always, hurt me. You always saw my sisters better. So a lot of narcissism happens within families because of color, right? So with narcissists, they have a golden child and they have a scapegoat child. So in a lot of colorist families, the darker skinned children will be seen as the scapegoats, where the lighter skinned children will be seen as the golden children. So the narcissist favorite, right? And again, this is all coming from insecurity. And as as a people, I feel we are breaking these generational curses because we're realizing this stuff is not right. You have people, they will go online, they will call people out, including myself, on others who are colors. And this is why I say colorism is pretty much just an umbrella, like just a subgenre or subtopic of racism, right? There really is no colorism without racism. So it all started with racism, but then the racism then became internalized within our people. And now we have a colorism problem, right? Because there is this one interview, I think I went, why not I think, but I actually went did a reaction on the Charleston White interview. And one thing Charleston White said in that interview, we are our slave masters, right? We talk like them, we eat like them, we have mindsets like them. Um we are them, right? In a way, in the Black community. And so that's kind of shows within our colorism culture, right? So colorism is just something that's been passed down from generation to generation, right? And it's a curse, just like racism is a curse within the family dynamics. So I'm going to talk a little bit about colorism when it comes to Latin America, because there is also a huge hierarchy of colorism within Latin America, right? Within the Costa system, right? And so this Costa, I'm going to show y'all, right? It was pretty much this social class hierarchy that was created within the colonies, right? And so if you see, it starts with the peninsulares, right? Which were the Spanish, white Spanish colonists, right? It was pretty much white Latinos, white Latinas, as what they will say now. We had the Creoles, which were the descendants of the peninsulares, the mestizos, which were a mix of Caucasian and Indian. Then we have mulattoes, which is biracial mix, which is Caucasian and African. We had Native American Indians at the bottom, and then African slaves all the way at the bottom, right? So that was the system that was in Latin America as well. So you also again see colorism really within, the Dominican Republic, within these Caribbean islands, within the Latin American countries as well. So I just want to briefly break that down. And the higher you were on that system, the more opportunities and the more wealth you had. There's actually a study, and I'm going to show y'all my studies now, my statistics. I'm about to go into them because there's a whole lot of colorism statistics, right? So yeah. And so you had a lot of families in Latin America, they would marry outside of their race, or they would mix races and have children because they wanted to be higher on the caste system. And I kind of talked about this a little bit in my fetishization of interracial relationships live. I was just saying, you have some people who actually, even to this day, still have a mindset where they want to date interracially because they want to mix, because they want to have lighter skinned kids, right? Because on some level, they want to feel like their kids are going to have more, or that, their kids are going to be higher on this social class hierarchy or this beauty hierarchy, right? So it still kind of happens with some people, but this was really something that happened a lot back in the day. You would see a lot of interracial couples and a lot of mixing, having mixed children within the Latin American countries. All right. So that was something interesting. It's outside of the United States, but I thought that was something that was interesting to kind of talk about as well. So let's talk about colorism in schools and in the workplace, right? So there are lots of studies and lots of statistics that show there's definitely a link between, success in school, success in the workplace, and shade of your skin, right? And I'm about to break down some of these statistics. I'm about to read some of them to y'all. So the first statistic, dark-skinned boys and girls were 2.5 and 3 times more likely to be suspended from school than their light-skinned counterparts. All right. So that's a statistic. And then the next one was the impact of skin tone within intraracial classrooms sometimes exceeds the impact of race in mixed race classrooms. Combined with gender, these disparities can create nearly insurmountable hurdles for dark-skinned Black girls. All right. So that's a statistic. The next statistic, even when behavior is similar to that of lighter skinned Black girls, the perception of darker skinned girls, Black girls, is shaped by now darkness is often masculinized. So they're seen as more masculine. As adults, students of color who are suspended or expelled from school are referred to law enforcement are more likely to become entangled in the criminal legal system, right? So, yes, darker skin. Yes, you said it. Yes, you heard it. Right? Yes, you heard it. So, darker skinned students are most likely or more likely to have trouble and get in trouble in school than lighter skinned children. So, y'all can take it for what it is. So, lighter skinned students have a little bit more benefit of the doubt on them, right? And I can tell y'all this means a lot to me because kids mean a lot to me. So let's go to the next statistics. All right. So we're going to be talking about the workplace. All right. And some of this is also talking about Latino, and Latina people as well. So the earnings of light-skinned or European Latin employees were nearly 22% higher than earnings of darker skinned or indigenous Latin employees. Sorry, I cannot speak today. Right? Immigrants with darker skin were paid up to 25% less than lighter skinned immigrants, with that gap widening the longer the legal immigrant was in the United States. Light-skinned Black people were more likely to earn higher salaries and hold more prominent jobs than darker-skinned Black people, even with similar resumes and job experience. The impact of skin color or shade was as impactful as race in American socioeconomic status. Let's talk about some more statistics here. I'm gonna show y'all these. Black people who don't look stereotypically Black are 32% to 43% more likely to hold a professional leadership role. And I've seen this, y'all, myself, because I always see light-skinned bosses in the workplace. In my experience, I've always seen lighter skinned Black bosses if there was a Black boss, right? Yes, darker skinned bosses, yes, they do exist. Yes, there is many of them, but there's always lighter skinned bosses. Even if you look at the United States of America, who was our first Black president of the United States of America? Barack Obama. Barack Obama is a biracial, lighter skinned Black male, right? Next statistic, light-skinned Black people were more likely. I just went through that. The chances of a workplace promotion dropped from 12% to a mere 7% for Black professionals with stereotypically Black appearances. 51% of people of color, women in the U.S., United Kingdom, Canada, Australia, and South Africa experienced racism in their workplace for darker skinned women. That was as high as 69%. Okay. So as y'all can see, and this goes on and on, this is actually global. It's the same thing in India. In India, it is shown that the Indians who are on the higher caste systems, they make more money, right? They're seen as higher class, rich, were most likely to be lighter skin. The same thing in Brazil. It's the same statistic in Brazil. So this is global, y'all. This is global. So when I always talk about European beauty standards and how European beauty standards has always dominated globally, this is what I'm talking about. This is backed up by statistics, y'all. This is not anything coming out of people's mouths. A lot of people have said, well, reverse colorism. They try and deny colorism. No, there's statistics. This is global, right? This is an issue. You have people who are struggling in poverty because of the color of their skin. This is not a joke. This is not something to be laughing about. It's not something to be petty about, right? I have a good question from someone. I'm going to answer it towards the end, y'all, but I see a good question, and this is good to answer. Right. So we have to keep all of this in mind, y'all, when we're talking about colorism. There is this one statistic I wanted to talk about, which we kind of went into it, but skin tone affects experience of racism. These are statistics based on the color of people's skin, right? Who claimed to have experienced racism. Darker skin was 69%, 65. This looks like is brown skin, 61, 50, 58%. That's going towards light, 51% for light. And then it goes, the lighter it gets, the less the percent. Right. The less the percent. So I had a person ask, what is the definition of not looking stereotypically black? So when somebody says stereotypically not looking black, so racially ambiguous. So somebody doesn't have African phenotype. So light skin, very straight hair, very loosely curled hair, right? They have very European features, right? They're talking about somebody who's racially ambiguous. The small noses, small lips, right? Light eyes, right? That's what they're talking about when they say stereotypically. What is the definition of not looking stereotypically black? There's a stereotype when it comes to how somebody looks with blackness, even though we know as a people there's all sorts of shades of black. There's all sorts of kinds and types of black. You cannot just define one black person, obviously, right? But when the statistics, when they're talking about statistics, they're talking about people who are like white presenting. Like, let's talk about Mariah Carey, a Sophia Richie, right? A Halsey, or somebody who's just very fair-skinned. Very fair-skinned. Somebody, they talk about the biracial kids who don't really look black. They look like they could be something else. So they look like they could be another race. Like they could be Latino or Latina, which is not necessarily a race, but Indian. Somebody could look Middle Eastern. They look different, right? Then somebody who has a stereotypical black phenotype, which is 4-type hair, kinky hair, dark skin, big lips, wide nose, right? That like black hair, because you do have black people who have blonde hair. Let's talk about it. But stereotypically, people don't see black people as having blonde or ginger hair, even though black blondes do exist, right? That is a thing. No freckles, things of that nature. That's a stereotypically black looking person, right? So that's what they're talking about. So what I'm gonna do, y'all, I'm gonna show y'all, we're gonna talk about colorism in Hollywood, right? And then I'm gonna show y'all a video that I really liked, kind of going into current day colorism that happens in Hollywood in entertainment. So colorism in Hollywood, that's definitely a topic to go into. So when it comes to these roles, a lot of the time you'll see for the big roles or big movies is usually a lighter skin actress. You're talking about These girls, which you have Zendaya here. We have, and some of these Zendaya, which she's very popular, and actually Zendaya herself has actually been interviewed, and she has talked about how, as a lighter skinned woman, she benefits from colorism. Zendaya has said it out of her mouth, right? A lot of these girls who are playing, even with biopiction type of movies, right? The actual person that they're acting or playing in the movie might be dark skinned, but they actually get a light skinned, racially ambiguous actress like Zoe Saldana. Like, it happens all the time. It's harder for darker skin actresses to get roles, right? This is an actual thing that happens within our community, right? I'm going to show y'all a video real quick talking about this. Just give me 1 second, y'all. I'm about to change the screen. I'm just about to share my screen, y'all. But this is talking more about I guess music, but still it's kind of like the same thing. So this is more like music, but we're going to talk about movies as well. Can y'all see that? I don't even think y'all can even see the screen, y'all. Let me delete my screen.
Girls, you're gonna get the ghetto black bitch. It's gonna punk you all the time. Okay, too black. Her nose looks like a gorilla nose. And so, dark-skinned girls never seem to like me. Do you let black people in your bar often? I really feel bad. I'm so sorry.
Colorism is a form of discrimination or prejudice based on the darker skin tones within the same racial or ethnic group. It involves the ideology that lighter skin tones are more desirable or superior to darker skin tones, and that one's value is based on proximity to whiteness. Colorism intersects with racism, as both forms of discrimination are rooted in hierarchies based on skin color. Racial and ethnic minorities, particularly those with darker skin tones, are often subjected to both colorism and racism, leading to compounding effects of systemic disadvantages. Colorism has deep historical roots, including its association with slavery. Enslaved people with lighter skin tones were often treated more favorably than those with darker skin, frequently as a result of mixed-race parentage or proximity to European lineage. They occasionally received less physically taxing assignments, had better access to materials and opportunities, and occasionally even received privileges like working in the plantation house or receiving an education. The basis for this disparate treatment was the idea that lighter complexion was a sign of closeness to whiteness and so had greater value within the system of slavery. Darker skin tones, on the other hand, were associated with harder working circumstances. They frequently endured harsher forms of punishment, were subjected to higher degrees of exploitation, and were seen as being at the bottom of the social hierarchy within the community of enslaved people. There are several groups across the world that deal with colorism. Colorism is most prevalent in both Asian and Black communities, as the skin bleaching industry has been growing fast. I also want to mention that colorism does not only affect one's perceived attractiveness or preference, as when it's mostly spoken about, it's mainly tied to beauty standards, but colorism also affects incarceration rates, employment, opportunities, social bias, stereotypes, media representation, hate crimes, mental health, education, and internalized racism. In today's video, we're going to speak about colorism in Hollywood, acting, and music. Let's get into it. Back in the trap girl era, September of 2018, American drill rapper Asian Doll mentioned the effect of colorism on her career. In an interview with fellow musician Princess Nokia, Nokia mentioned her light-skin privilege in the industry and applauded Asian Doll for her hard work, knowing she would have to go twice as hard.
Love me some Asian Doll. Love her. You know why? See her as the future. Right. I see her, I think she stands out because she knows where she come from, and she's really defining herself as a woman. I see her growing. And I see her being so eloquent in her growth, and I see she tries really hard to fight for her place as a Black woman, and I respect that. I have to, because as a privileged woman in this business, I have to commend the women that...
Asian responded to the interview saying, "For Princess Nokia to know lighter skin shades are privileged in this industry, and for her to speak on it brought real tears to my eyes. I'm so young, making all type of mistakes, but I use my platform to inspire girls just like me. If there's nobody in the industry in the position to help us, who gonna help us? Who gonna care about our feelings? Who gonna have our back? This young lady's spirit is so beautiful. I wonder if she's human. I'd rather not complain about getting expected. I'd just rather do me and grow as a woman. I promise all my life I will always use my platform to really help and uplift these girls. They need me, they need us, they need somebody. You can say what you want about me, but every day, who really knows me will always speak very highly of me, because I'm the realest bitch walking. Rap. Thank you, Princess Nokia. I love you so much." Now, if you know, Asian herself used to make colorist tweets, and many debate about her stage name. Seeing as this might have came from a place of insecurity and internalized self-hate, fans thought her statement was coming from a place of growth, but apparently it made her fellow trap girl rappers angry. Stunna Girl, whom you may know from Baddies West, went on to basically say that colorism doesn't exist, and that it's not true that if you're darker skinned that you have to work twice as hard, and if you feel that way, you just have low self-esteem and you're bitter. Cold Killa agreed with her statement, and Cash Doll even agreed and said that she didn't believe in colorism, but later revoked her statement less than a year later, saying, "It's crazy. I remember saying I haven't witnessed colorism just yet in the industry. Well, it happened. This guy don't even want to clear up this beat because of my skin tone, or unless I get another woman on the hook that's a lighter complexion." Just wanted to share that with you guys. At the time of Asian's statement, her and Cash Doll were beefing mainly about the name Doll, so she was most likely just saying that to spite her. Either way, it was dumb, but her and Asian are cool now. Cash Doll remains positive that she'll get the credit she deserves soon, as she responded to a fan on Twitter, further explaining the effects of colorism with, "It's all timing, love." Now, going back to Asian's original statement, Cuban Doll, Asian Doll's longtime friend of me, made a post saying, "As an unprivileged female, I work hard for everything and never get anything. God is on my side, and honestly, that's how I've been making it. People always want to tell your story for you, but they not in your shoes. People always want to discredit work and throw shade. But I'ma let the time tell and the music speak. Don't be fooled by your insecurities." Now, Cuban has been called out by many people for being colorist multiple times. Her and Stunna Girl both put rapper Rocky Bad in a cage, which I can make a whole video on if y'all want. But her ex-bestie Sukihana even backed up Asian's statement about colorism in the industry and called Cuban out for it as well, just as Cash Doll did. Bally Baby even hopped in and somewhat seemed to agree with Asian, but brought up body type discrimination in the rap scene, which is a completely different conversation. So I feel like I don't really have to say much for this. Just watch these clips of this interview. But
okay, y'all, I just wanted to talk about something. I wanted to talk before I let y'all see this part of the video. So you remember on I think it was on social media, there's an interview. It was with Mona Leo, which she's a beautiful Black woman, beautiful rapper, and she got interviewed by this man. He looked like he was like brown skin, light skin, and this lighter skin woman. And pretty much this lighter skin woman was talking about how asked Mona Leo if she believes that colorism exists, right? And she was pretty much saying, as a light skinned woman, she feels like reverse colorism is an actual thing. And after I let y'all see this interview, I'm going to talk about reverse colorism, my opinions on it, my how I see reverse colorism, y'all. But I just wanted to let y'all know that before we kind of get farther into the video of talking about this interview. But yeah, everybody on social media was talking about this interview, so maybe y'all will remember it when you see it.
Mona Leo is an American rapper on the rise, and she recently just gave birth to a baby boy with her boyfriend, fellow rapper Stunna for Vegas. Megan is a reality TV star from Bad Girls Club Season 9. If you want more information on her for some reason, watch my Baby Yell video. But yeah, just watch this foolishness.
A very important question, because I be battling people with this question all the time. Okay. Do you believe in colorism, and do you feel like it's easier as a female rapper to like make it big when you're like of a lighter complexion?
Believe in colorism. Colorism is very real. It's a very real thing, for sure. And it definitely is easier for, not to take away from anybody who is a light skinned rapper, but it's definitely easier for a woman with a lighter complexion to blow up quicker than a dark skinned woman, for sure.
But like, why do you feel like that? Because like I be getting into it with people, right? I used to get made fun of at school because I wasn't black enough. Bitches used to try to cut my hair. Like, people be thinking that like light skinned girls don't go through colorism. We go through colorism just, I don't know if it's like as bad as like
it's not like,
girls.
It's not colorism. It's not colorism. If you're light skinned, it's not colorism.
So what is it called?
If people was picking with you, then that's like, but it's not colorism. Like, colorism is discrimination against darker skinned, complected, like darker complected people.
You're basically talking about reverse.
Well, reverse colorism then, because they used to be like.
So I'm gonna stop it at this. So here's my thoughts on, I guess, what they're talking about, reverse colorism. Okay, so it's just kind of, it's similar to white privilege, right? And so you have to understand that a lot of people, when we talk about color privileges, a lot of people like to say, well, I'm lighter complected, or I'm white, but I still get picked at, right? Because specifically with white privilege, there's a lot of some white people will say, I've been dealt with black people who were ugly to me or picked at me because I was white. Or I've been in situations where I didn't fit in as a white person. I felt uncomfortable, right? I felt hostility from from people of color. And how I like to respond to people when they say that, it's not systematic, right? When somebody of a lighter skin tone is getting picked at, yes, it hurts. It hurts your feelings. But when you, like, specifically, this example happens, a lot of light skinned people will say, well, when I was younger, I got picked at, right? When I was younger. But you have to understand, when it comes to getting older, when it comes to things like the workplace, mass incarceration, when it comes to opportunities, beauty standards, all of that. Yes, you could have gotten picked at by them little kids, but you still have an upper hand in society when it comes to bigger things, when it comes to bigger issues, when it comes to other things in societies that is more important. Y'all get more privilege based on skin tone. Lighter skinned people get more privilege. These are statistics, right? Just like with white people, yes, you can have a black person who is racist, or a black person who specifically is targeting you, or you might feel uncomfortable, but systematically it's not gonna affect you. You're not gonna not get a job because you're white, right? You're not gonna ever be racially profiled by the police because you're white, right? These are bigger issues. The same thing with lighter skinned people. Darker skinned people have it worse, right? Because people are literally not getting job opportunities because they are darker skinned. You have people who have a higher chance of going to jail simply because they are darker skinned. You have beautiful black women getting picked at, being called every single racial slur in the book. And black women as a whole get called ugly because they are dark skinned, because they have Afrocentric features. Even when it comes to marriage statistics, there's studies showing that even colorism affects marriage statistics. It affects your annual income. People who are dark skinned are more likely to have a lower income than lighter skinned people. And I can even say this myself. I see light skinned bosses all the time. All the time. It's almost like, and not saying I have never seen like a dark skinned boss, like a dark skinned higher up, but I've seen more lighter skinned bosses lighter skinned managers, lighter skinned people in a higher corporate position more than I have darker skinned people. This is a statistics even in other countries. In India, the poverty rate is higher for darker skinned Indians. Indians are more likely to be in poverty and struggle financially than a lighter skinned person. It is not one in the same. When a lighter skinned person, yes, it might hurt your feelings, and I agree, no one should be picked at. Absolutely nobody should be picked at. Nobody should be harassed. I don't care if you're dark skinned. I don't care if you're light skinned. I don't care if you're not a person of color. I don't care if you're Latino, Latina, Indian, Asian. I don't think anybody should be made fun of or anybody should be treated worse, right? Because we're all human beings at the end of the day. But when it comes to the statistics, when it comes to systematic racism and systematic colorism, it is always worse for darker skinned people. It is always worse. This is why I talk about light skin privilege openly. Right? And the thing about it, I really like to speak up about this stuff because I feel like it is important to me to speak up. I want to be I want to be the voice for those who don't have a voice. You get what I'm saying? I'm gonna tell y'all this. I had to do, when it came to like students, children, I did a whole presentation on that with kids. I've even when it comes to our young middle schoolers, our young kids, I'm always talking about colorism. I'm always trying to promote children to love each other, because even in middle school, people like working in the middle schools, I would hear all the time the children would make fun of each other, say, "Oh, her hair's so nappy," or "She's so dark," blah blah blah. I remember one time I had this young student, and he was picking at the children in the class, and I had to tell him, "You got to stop doing that." I had to write him up, and I had to do a whole class on colorism. I did a whole class on colorism because my kids were having a problem with colorism. It happens highly in the schools, right? And dark-skinned students should not have to go through any of that. Yes, I understand people call all kinds of light bright, all kinds of whatever. "Oh, you're not black, blah, blah, blah." Yes, it makes you uncomfortable. But when you get older, statistically, your chances of success are higher than a darker skinned person. You still have privilege though. Right? Just like if a person who's not black were to be racist, right? A person who's not black were to experience racism from people of color, still it still doesn't do anything to them on a larger scale, on a broader scale. Racism towards white people is really not a big deal. Do I think it's right? No, I don't think it's right, but it's not systematic. It's not systematic for them. And the same thing when you're comparing it to light skin versus dark skin, when you're talking about specifically within the system of colorism. We're not talking about racism, y'all. Now, people will argue, well, within the system of racism now, color doesn't matter, shade doesn't matter. Because within the system of racism, you could have a light skinned and a dark skinned person. Both of them are going to be racially profiled simply because they're black. So I'm not saying that light skinned people don't experience racism, because they do. They really do. Just like dark skin, they experience racism. But when you're talking about the system of colorism, which is different than racism, light-skinned people benefit from it, right? That's why I like to break down the difference, because people like to say, sometimes light-skinned people will be like, "I experience racism." Yes, you experience racism. We're not talking about racism. We're talking about colorism, right? So I just wanted to break that down. Okay? So I'm going to continue the interview.
I'm not even black for real. You're white. Go over there with the white girls. And I'm just like, bitch.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Like, I am black, actually.
Yeah, that's an interesting experience.
Yeah.
I've heard people who mix people talk about experience.
I'm not even, this is the thing, I'm not even mixed. I don't got no white parents.
But I've heard people like lighter skinned people like say stuff like that. I wouldn't say it's reverse colorism. Like I don't think that that's a thing. But I understand.
I'm trying to describe the moment that you're having, and that's kind of like what you're saying. But also, it's like that thing, like, oh, you're pretty to be a dark skin.
Yeah, but we also get, oh, you're pretty to be a black. Like, I've had white people and others.
Well, that's racism.
Yeah, that's racism. But like, they'd be like, you're pretty to be a black. I've had.
See how the light-skinned girl was talking about examples of racism. She couldn't really give any truly substantive answers dealing with colorism. She was talking about how white people have said that to her. That's not colorism. When a white person says that to you, that's racism. That's a microaggression. Okay. Let's talk about microaggressions for a second, y'all. Let's talk about microaggressions. So a microaggression, right? It's almost like a backhanded compliment. It's backhanded, passive-aggressive statements that people do that people say towards people of color, right? For example, what's an example of a microaggression? Like, oh, you're so smart. You're so intelligent to be a black person. Oh, you don't really sound black. You sound white. You're the whitest black person I know. Right? Oh, let's talk about the Latino community. Right? Oh, you speak so well. You speak English so well. You remember the president? He even said, I think it was the president of Liberia. Was it Liberia? He was talking to one of the presidents in the African countries, right? And he told the African president or the African leader of that country, he said, you speak such good English. Where did you learn to speak English like that? Even though that country, the African country, is a English speaking country. That's a microaggression. She was talking about microaggressions from people who are not of color. That is different than colorism. Colorism is when it happens within our same race group. So people think that, so light-skinned people sometimes be thinking that they experience colorism. No, you experiencing pure racism, honey child. We have to know the difference. And I liked how Mona Leo clocked her. She clocked her. Because she's like, girl, that's not colorism. That's racism. We're talking about the system of colorism. A totally different thing.
Black girls be like, you're pretty. Are you mixed? Like that? Are you mixed? You have to be mixed.
Right.
I thought you was mixed. You mixed. Why gotta be mixed?
Right.
Yeah. That thought process is actually sad.
Yeah.
That I would have to be mixed.
Oh wait.
All right. And then I'm going to clock something else. I'm going to say something else about what she said. She's a fully black girl, and she said people were saying you got to be mixed. There's privilege within that statement as well. Right? The fact that when they say a black girl is pretty, the fact that somebody sees a black girl and they automatically assume that they're mixed, that is beauty privilege. That improves the beauty privilege within lighter skin, racial ambiguity. Because automatically when you see a beautiful black girl, you assume the girl is mixed. Right? So that is showing there's an overall consciousness, an overall belief system that is within the collective that the only way a black person is beautiful is if they're mixed. So there's no way this girl can be fully black. There's privilege within that. For people to assume that lighter skinned people are the only beautiful people, that is privilege. That is beauty privilege. Right? There's privilege in that right there. So you have to understand, even though that's not true, because all shades of black is beautiful. All blackness is beautiful to me. Dark skin, African features, big lips, thick afro hair, right? Big noses. All that is beautiful, right? All of that is beautiful. But within the system of colorism, it is not considered beautiful. Right? So we're talking about things from the frame, from the view of colorism, right? So let me continue with this video.
But I mean, just to play devil's advocate, like black, especially little black girls in general, we've been indoctrinated to think that darker skin, especially like just the way that I grew up, I'm like darker skinned people experience a completely different experience than people who are light skinned, and that is just like the bottom line, and that is where the issue of colorism comes in for sure. But just little girls have always been like just growing up, my mom, and it's not my mom's fault either, but just growing up, my mom like perming my hair just so that it wouldn't be super, because I have 4C, super kinky hair, and it's like it was difficult for her to manage, so she would perm my hair so it would be easier for her to style it. But that was something that a lot of young black girls had to experience, and we were told that our hair was not beautiful, that our skin was not beautiful, and we watched people who were lighter skinned or mixed people get a different treatment than brown skin and especially dark skinned children. So that's why I feel like it, not to take away from like your experience, because that's still valid, and what you went through is still something that was traumatizing for you for sure, but it's not the same thing as like the colorism that darker skinned women.
Can you explain it in like the rap, like in the rap world, like from the original question? Like, why do you feel that it's easier for a lighter skinned like a Lotto to blow up versus a Cash Doll?
It's just, I mean, so just to take it all the way back, like when our ancestors were slaves, the darker skinned slaves were in the field, they were outside, they were doing hard labor, and the lighter skinned people were in the house. And that is like, it just trickled down, and it just kind of is the same concept, just
but can I make a different time though? I feel like it's only with the women though, because I feel like
it's specifically with women,
right?
Sure. That's why I said it's different.
The darker skinned guy, I feel like it's harder to be a light skinned rapper versus a dark skinned rapper, because I feel like the light skinned rappers, nobody really take you serious.
That's like a cultural. That's like a cultural thing. Like that's the cultural thing that we're doing like recently. But as far as like just colorism in general, and specifically like colorism amongst black women specifically, that's something that dates back far beyond like the shit with like being a light skinned male rapper and a dark skinned male rapper. That's some cultural shit, and that's some shit that just recently, or at least I can only speak from my personal experience. I remember like this was like 2011, 2012 when Drake was like making like the softer rap music. I remember that being a conversation like, oh, he's a light-skinned rapper. I remember that starting that conversation around that time. But as far as like what women are experiencing, I think it is, I'm not gonna lie, it's easier for a light-skinned woman to blow up as a rapper, to navigate through the music industry. You notice a pattern, like there could be an influx of light-skinned rappers, and they wouldn't necessarily have to be as talented lyrically or put as much effort in. Women who are darker than me, who are rappers, and that are really fucking talented, I've seen them have to work 110 times harder, and lyrically be more skilled lyrically, have better visuals, and you know what I'm talking about.
I do. Fill me in.
No.
So after that, fans took to Twitter to speak on the interview. Many were rightfully not happy with the interviewer Megan. Mind you, Megan has made colorist comments on her season of Bad Girls Club and is often very passive-aggressive in her interviews, which is why a lot of people didn't have the patience with her. Not that it'd be deserved in the first place.
While I'm looking at the new girl's picture, I'm analyzing her weave and her dress and her shoes, and I'm like, ugh, she's black. I don't think so.
Do you think she's prettier than you?
No, but I just wanted to know y'all's opinion.
After After the interview aired, viewers weren't only coming for Megan, some people also came after Mona Leo. Mona Leo received backlash from people who don't know the depths, history, and literal definition of colorism. Another reality TV star, Masika Kalisha, who insists reverse colorism exists, which it does not, responded to Mona Leo's tweet saying, "Reverse colorism 100% exists. Saying that it does not exist is actually proof that it does." And again, Masika has also made previous colorist comments calling dark-skinned women insecure black beast. Someone picking on you because you're lighter than them is not colorism. That would be bullying. So Ice Spice was recently announced by Billboard as the People's Princess of Rap, and many people took to Twitter to express how they believe Flo Milli was deserving of the title and how colorism has a play in Ice's career. Flo Milli then went on to say, "I wish y'all would stop with this tired."
So let's talk about this right here. So I'm a huge Flo Milli fan, y'all. I love Flo Milli. She's one of my favorites. I really liked her and I've liked her since she first came out. Right, since Flo Milli came out, I've really been a huge fan of her. She's very talented. She's beautiful, and there's this war that goes on between her and Ice Spice because Flo Milli has been in the game longer than Ice Spice, but they kind of have similar styles and kind of like that poppy type of rap, if that makes any sense, that poppy bubble pop type of rap. And Baby Tate kind of has that. Was it Baby Tate? Baby Tate kind of has that vibe too. And they're just talking about how Flo Milli even raps better. She has more skills, and it's taken her longer to even get attention, right? And Flo Milli does really good. You know what I'm saying? She's always putting having hits on TikTok. Like Never Lose Me. We love Never Lose Me. May I. I love Flo Milli's stuff. But they were just talking about Flo Milli fans were mad because it's like, why Ice Spice, after 2 years after Ice Spice comes on the scene, she's able to just blow up and be considered the princess of rap, right? And Flo Milli hasn't received that same type of recognition, right? And that is a good argument because to me, Flo Milli sounds better than Ice Spice. She can rap better than Ice Spice. Lyrically, she's more talented than Ice Spice is. But because Ice Spice is racially ambiguous light-skinned woman, she had the light hair, was the orange hair, whatever color her hair was, yellow, girl, I don't know, that type of hair. She blew up because the way she looks. And a huge reason why Ice Spice is even still relevant, which a lot of people is actually saying she's not relevant anymore. A lot of people are saying she's slowly declining, right? She was able to have that little fame, right? And even a lot of the things Ice Spice has done, people say she's not really a good friend. People have called her a fake friend. People have said she's stolen from her dark-skinned friends, like all of this stuff, right? But yeah, that is a beef that is going on in Hollywood right now. I don't really hear as much about, well, actually, I'm gonna take that back. I don't hear as much about Flo Milli and Ice Spice beef like I did, but I remember like a couple years ago, that beef, people talking about Ice Spice and Flo Milli and comparing them. That was a huge thing that was happening. Like a lot of people were talking about that. So let's continue.
Ass narrative y'all love to push about my career. I'm doing great. I went from being broke to traveling the world with my talent, and I'm only 23. Please relax and stop mentioning me while trying to degrade another artist. It's weird. Notice how the tweet that had the most likes was the one in defense of Ice Spice and not the one in defense of Flo's career. Anyways, this entire situation is somewhat of a mirror to the Keke Palmer and Zendaya colorism call-out situation back in July of 2022, when a tweet went viral and Keke responded, "A great example of colorism is to believe I can be compared to anyone. I'm the youngest talk show host ever, the first black woman to star in their own show on Nickelodeon, and the youngest and first black Cinderella on Broadway. I'm an incomparable talent. Baby, this is Keke Palmer. I've been a leading lady since I was 11 years old. I have over 100 credits, and currently starring in an original screenplay that's the #1 film at the box office, #Nope. I've had a blessed career thus far. I couldn't ask for more, but God continues to surprise me." Now, I 100% see where both Flo and Kiki are coming from, especially in their frustration. To be happy and content in your career and to see people constantly telling you should be better or victimizing you instead of supporting you can be very annoying and somewhat performative when they say they deserve this and that, but only to pit them against their counterparts. Mona Leo has spoke on this as well, saying, "It's okay to support darker-skinned rappers without comparing them to other rappers. Like, we can simply exist as talented artists. I don't know how to articulate it, but it feels weird, only being brought up in comparison to someone else. Sometimes it can feel as if people are disingenuous with their approach, and dark-skinned artists are only being used as a talking point and can't just trend and exist within their own volition." Cash Doll herself said she refuses to believe that her skin tone is the reason she's not as successful as her counterparts. Everyone should know colorism exists and that it can have effects on their careers, especially in the entertainment industry. But the reason I think some artists refuse to indulge in the topic is because they don't want to be used as a talking point or want the negative attention that unfortunately comes with acknowledging it. But I also do believe it may be hard for people to see how colorism affects them as they settle for receiving the bare minimum in comparison to their lighter or white counterparts. To continue, I don't think there's anything wrong with genuine fans saying their artist deserves more fame, connections, opportunities, and more, as long as the actions are being put behind the words and they're not only using their name for a viral tweet or constantly comparing them. Now, this is not to talk down on anyone's career. Every single person I've spoken about has worked hard and gained lots of success and reached beyond their personal goals in their separate careers and deserves as such. It's a great thing that Zendaya and Princess Nokia and many more entertainers and people in different fields continue to use their platforms and speak on the privilege that they receive as lighter-skinned people, biracial people, white people, and more, as no matter what, discrimination does exist. It's also good to keep in mind that colorism is not always blatant. It can be covert and implicit like racism. Even the way streaming services and media apps push more visibility on certain accounts than others. So what do y'all think? Let me know in the comment section and remember to support these artists.
You look like a black Barbie. Darling, I am a black Barbie. And she put full lashes on there. And I gotta go back to my house.
Okay, y'all. So that was that little breakdown talking about colorism in the media and within rap specifically. I thought it was very interesting to kind of talk about it. But yeah. So let me see. Let's go into our brief little breakdown of texturism, y'all. Sorry, that's the wrong screen. But yeah, I'm gonna actually share the screen for the actually no, I'm gonna share this last colorism video, then we'll talk about texturism. Just give me 1 second, y'all. But how did y'all like the video? I thought it was good. I really liked it. So I'm gonna show. You want to see it? Let me remove. Y'all can't hear me. I'm sorry. I'm trying to change the screen to this video. Hopefully y'all see it in a second. Oh my goodness. Why is it not changing? Sorry, y'all. Just give me 1 second. Thanks. I appreciate it. I appreciate the feedback, y'all. I really do. And like I said, I always, I'm always open to suggestions. If there's any critiques y'all have, there's any more content or any subjects you want to talk about or you want me to talk about, definitely let me know. It's like this will not remove. Oh my goodness. I might have to create another screen and just, this thing is acting funny. What I'm trying to do, I'm trying to pull up the video that I want to share for y'all. Oh my goodness. It just don't want to work. I might not be able to just show that video, y'all. Actually, do I see it? Oh, it appeared, y'all. Okay, I'm gonna show y'all this video. I thought it was a conversation about colorism with other Black women. I'm gonna show this real quick and then we'll go into texturism, y'all.
Still a problem. Kim, what do you is colorism still a problem? Kim, what do you think about that? Do you think colorism is a problem? It's still a problem?
I think it is still a problem. I think it's getting better, much better. But it's among us. You know, that's the. Yeah. And it is, and that becomes from the very beginning of time, because when, you know, we had the light-skinned people in the house, and with the darker you are, the further you are in the field. So yeah, that was ingrained in us. So we're not that many generations away. I think it's getting better now, like the sister with no hair, and this one right here, dark chocolate, and you see all these beautiful colors, and we're embracing each other. You know, my mother, I thought she was white till I was 9 years old. That's a problem. And then one day I went home, I was like, "You white, mama?" And then she cussed me out like she was Black, so then I knew that she was a Black woman. So, and my father is very dark, you know? So I had all these different shades in my family, but we never in our family said like, "Oh, you light skin, you brown skin." We never had that in our family. But outside and in the community, we have it. I went to Fisk University, and they would say, "Oh, you can't run for Miss Fisk," or "You too light," or "You can't." I was like, "Too light? What's happening here? I'm at a Black college."
It's us, though. It's us. I'm telling you.
We do it to us.
Yeah, it's us. And remember, I was saying earlier, we can't expect people to do what we have not figured out how to do ourselves. I have a father that is blonde hair and blue-eyed. So what he would always tell me how the difference in them. What was that look for?
I apologize. Okay, go ahead, one more time. It was judgment, I apologize.
It was yeah.
Okay, all right.
But we do it to ourselves.
We do.
I think we minimize things that really become big later.
I'm gonna bring in a couple folks here.
The way we think about color, the closer you are to whiteness and lightness, good. The closer you are to darkness and Black, dirty, bad. We already are Black. And so we're already labeled as dirty, bad. It's not Black people's fault that when I see the light-skinned girl that I think she's better or she got more privilege than me. Because that's what the white people tell me. That's what these stories tell me. That's what television tells me. And so we have to think of it with a different lens of it's not our fault. This is what they told us. And we have to fight against that and think more on a grounds of we are Black people, we are people.
You're gonna come right here.
Growing up, I didn't have a real good support from my mom. She was really color struck. We're the same color. And my mom did not love her color. So growing up, I didn't know how to love myself. I used to be the girl that I have to buy weave because if I don't, nobody's gonna like me. And now I cut off all my hair because that's something I've always wanted to do. And I was terrified to do it because I was like, people are gonna hate me so much for cutting off my hair. But when I did it, I felt so beautiful and free. Nobody could tell me anything at that point. I was a beautiful Black woman with short hair, and you can't tell me anything about myself.
Black people aren't the only people who have colorism issues. I think the challenge for the Black community is that we've internalized it and we've made it more vicious than it has to be in today's society. There are many people on Twitter who comment on how dark I am. I'm medium tone.
Right.
I'm too dark for some, I'm too light for others, and for a lot of them, I'm too round. But our opportunity is to decide who we intend to be in the space and how we're going to treat others in that space with us.
Yes.
Because whether we see the prejudice or we see the privilege, there are those who are making decisions about us, and they are imposing those decisions on us when they hire, when they fire, when they send a preschooler to time out or when they send a teenager to prison. Those choices are being made, so we can't dismiss that it exists, but we can build the protections around ourselves so that we aren't doing it internally.
Do you think it's changing very much?
Yes, I mean, it's absolutely getting better because we talk about it. When you deny a problem, you can't fix the problem. And I think what's helpful for all of us is that we're actually talking about this as an issue and we're talking about solutions.
Ma'am, I'd love to hear from you.
I am light-skinned, but I have never been treated like I was white in my life. I've always been black. I've never felt any different from anybody else. And when I go to work, when I went to school, I was treated like a black woman. I was disrespected like a black woman. So it bothers me when people think because you're light-skinned, you're treated differently. I have never had that advantage in my life.
Okay, y'all. So that was it. So I got a few questions. I'm looking. What do you think about YT YouTube blogger Donna Briggs? I'm not really sure. When I saw your comment, I looked her up. I don't really know who that is. But I kind of like looked it up and I kind of think I know what her issue is, like, because they're saying that she used to be. Did this woman used to be black or she used to be white? Because I'm seeing this. It says motivational speaker Donna Briggs goes viral again after viewers speculate that she has changed her appearance to look white. Okay, she looks white, and that she allegedly denies ever being black. So that's sad. And for those who don't know who this Donna Briggs is, I'm about to just screenshot and airdrop this to my laptop. That's very sad. She looks like a very different person, whoever this is. I'm about to airdrop it, y'all, if I can find it. So this is who Donna Briggs is. So this is who they're talking about. I'm gonna delete that right there. This is who they're talking about. So apparently this woman used to be a darker skinned black woman and she made herself look like a blonde white woman. So she's gotten lighter over time. So I find that to be sad. Just like with Lil' Kim, it's the same thing. Like Lil' Kim, when she was younger, she was beautiful, but she's lightened her skin, done all these things to her, and she doesn't look the same. I kind of find that to be sad that she didn't like how she looked before. She bleached her skin. Does she have a skin condition by chance? I don't know who this really is. Does she have a skin condition or she bleached her skin? She says she denies ever being black. So I know, so she probably didn't have a skin condition then. I do know some people do have a skin condition where it makes them very light. I do know that, but I don't know if she has that and she got light because of that, or she just like forcefully lightened her skin. But if she forcefully lightened her skin, that's very sad. Yeah, that's very sad. And the skin bleaching industry is over billions of dollars. It's billions of dollars, y'all. It's very popular. Skin bleaching is very popular in Asia, Africa. It's very popular in India. You'll go on the streets and you'll see billboards that have skin bleaching products, right? And actually, skin bleaching is very bad for you. It gives you cancer. It can really deteriorate your health. So I don't think anybody should do anything to themselves that is going to hurt their health or anything that is going to make them look like someone they're not. You get what I'm saying? I do understand that people do get things done. Like you have Caucasian people, they tan, right? People, they get surgery to change their body, because they don't feel good about themselves. But at the end of the day, like, it is sad that people aren't just happy with who they are. You know what I'm saying? They're not happy with the skin tone and the features that they were born with. Like I said, when it comes to surgery, specifically with women, that's your business. You do what makes you feel good at the end of the day. But the only concern about surgery sometimes is that you can lose your life. Like, there's girls who have passed away from doing different surgeries, and you're risking your life, and the butt shots are unhealthy, and what I'm saying, it can cause health problems in the long run. So that's the concern around any of that. Like, if it comes to changing how you look or changing yourself with surgery or any sort of beauty procedure, that's the risk you have to take, right, is health concerns, right? Like with perms, right, which we're about to go into texturism. That's perfect, going into texturism. But if y'all have any more things you want to tell me about her specifically, that would be good. You said her eyes are a different color too, so she's pretty much changed everything. So she's pretty much changed herself to look like a blonde white woman. Okay. All right. Yeah, I find that to be very sad. There's nothing wrong with doing little alterations to your physical appearance, or I'm when it comes to like the whole natural versus unnatural thing, I'm not going to ever be like, you don't need to do these things, because at the end of the day, as a woman, you decide what you want to do, and you need to do whatever makes you feel happy. But again, when it goes to like, when it comes to extremes, when it comes to things that could really affect your health, that's something that's very concerning. Or even things that, are affected, like the way you look, you might not think well about yourself because your mental health. You know what I'm saying? People sometimes have body dysmorphia. That's a thing that people struggle with. So it's like, even though, you know, you look a certain way, you look at yourself in the mirror, you see someone you're not. You see a person who doesn't even exist, right? You hate your body, you hate the way you look. You just can't stand what you see in the mirror, right? And you don't see yourself in the way other people see you. You know what I'm saying? Like, when it comes to eating disorders and all that, that's stuff that that's always a concern, if that makes any sense. So I put people like this in thoughts and prayers. We can only pray for people like this. We can only wish people like this well. You know what I'm saying? Like, people always coming, people canceling people. I think to a certain degree, cancel culture does serve a purpose, but I also feel like sometimes we forget to show empathy and show pure humanity towards people. But yeah, like, a lot of time it be mental illness too sometimes that causes people to go through these extreme transformations physically, because their mental health is not right. They have body dysmorphia. Like, there's something wrong and they need help. You get what I'm saying? Yeah, they need help. Um so yeah, like, how do y'all think about this? Y'all have any more information about this woman? Again, we can just uplift her in thoughts and prayers. But like, she was beautiful before. Absolutely beautiful, right? Beautiful skin. Looked like she had beautiful hair, natural, you know what I'm saying? All of that. And then now she just looks like a different person. But again, some people, they do have skin conditions though. And a lot of times some people won't straight up tell you that they have some sort of condition, right? So they'll do everything they can to kind of deal with their condition, right? So that's why I was asking, do y'all know if she has a skin condition that makes her lighter? Because if she does have a skin condition that makes her lighter, she might just be changing up her physical appearance just to make herself look more presentable in having lighter skin. So she might change her eye color, change her hair type, change her hair color, might do all these things because she wants to make herself look better. You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, some people, they have done this to themselves, so they have made that decision that they do want to be that light though. But again, I don't really know much about her, so that's why I'm asking the questions. Who said true? It might be some sort of disorder. Yeah, some. And it's like, it's sad because it's like, in society today, people can't just simply love themselves. You have social media, You know what I'm saying? You have TikTok, you have, magazines, you have, constant pressure on the television, celebrity culture to be a certain way, to look a certain way. And that makes young girls insecure about themselves. I think the percentage of people who have body dysmorphia is much higher now than back in the day, right? Because we have all these things. We have Photoshop, we have Facetune, we have all these influences, and we have to understand how our mind works. There's something called the subconscious mind. So a lot of the time, the images that we see, the our programming, our childhood trauma, things we've been taught, things that we come across in our everyday lives, the images that we see affects how we see ourselves and how we think, right? So if you're constantly on social media, you're constantly seeing these images of these women that's like unrelatable or just unhealthy, or all this stuff, that starts to affect your mental, and you start to internalize that and believe there's something wrong with you, right? Because you are not meeting that standard, because all the images you see are just unhealthy, unrelatable, unrealistic. You believe that something's wrong with you, but really you're just a true human. You're just normal. And I've always told people there's nothing wrong with being average. Like I just feel like in this day and age there's this really strong sense of narcissism and perfectionism within our young people in the Gen Z generation, as well as millennial as well. And I feel like people just feel like they have to be the baddest this, baddest that. Like they gotta, like, be like the most perfect thing in the world. Like, for example, today I'm gonna tell y'all an example just about me today. I personally, when it comes to fake lashes, I love how fake lashes look on other girls. Absolutely love them. They always look beautiful. Me personally, when I do my makeup, I never really like the way I look in fake lashes. Today, I was thinking about wearing fake lashes, right? And I didn't like the way they looked on me. And then there's a part of me, I was like insecure because I was like, I should wear fake lashes. You know what I'm saying? I need to like thicken up my lashes. All the girls wearing fake lashes or whatever, right? I look so plain because I just have regular mascara on and a winged eye with a wing liner. But then I thought to myself, I was like, I like the way I look without lashes. You know what I'm saying? Not every beauty trend is for everybody. Not every, just because it's the trend to wear lashes, I mean I have to wear lashes in every video, right? And the lashes that tend to look better on me are more like lighter, wispy lashes that aren't so um thick, because the thick lashes, I don't like the way they look on me. I think they're overwhelming on me, and so I tend to not wear fake lashes, even though I love the way they look on other girls. They just don't look good on me. And I was kind of beating myself up about that. I'd be like, I look so plain, blah blah blah. But it's like, again, it's just this culture that tells us we need to do these things. If we're not looking like the next girl, we're, our edges aren't perfect, we're not, we don't look just full glam, we're just ugly. And that's not true, because really average is perfect. There's nothing wrong with being an average looking person, right? There's nothing wrong with being natural. But at the same time, if you do want to go all out, if you do want to be glam, you can totally do that. That you do what makes you happy at the end of the day, right? You do what makes you look happy at the end of the day. But, like I said, when we start to like judge ourselves and we start to beat ourselves up and we start to really criticize ourselves in a way that just is unhealthy, that's when it becomes a problem, because people have anxiety, people have social anxiety, and people are feeling suicidal. There's even studies showing that suicide rates are connected to TikTok and connected to how people see um images on in the media. Like that stuff can really start to get to you. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, like just do what you makes you feel good at the end of the day. I'm gonna move on to our texturism. It's gonna be a brief texturism conversation. It's not gonna be super long. I just wanted to kind of sparingly like show a video talking about texturism. So let me pull up this video for y'all. Let me pull it up, y'all. I don't know if y'all be able to see it. I'm gonna change. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna go back to this little screen. We're gonna replace it. Sorry, just give me 1 second, y'all. It's acting so funny with me, y'all. I kind of hate it. Ugh. No, we're gonna remove that. And then I'm gonna go to media. We're gonna just oh, okay, I see it. Y'all see that? Okay, so I'm gonna play this. This is talking about the history of black hair. This is gonna be our kind of our texturism conversation, y'all.
World tell us about hair? What does our world tell us about hair? From fairy tales to advertisements, movies and music videos, our icons are typically lusciously locked. Long, flowing hair has been a powerful marker of being a woman. But that's not how Afro-textured hair grows. Our hair generally grows upward and is tightly coiled, like this and like this. So what does our world tell us about Afro hair?
Black students at the prestigious Pretoria High School for Girls protested a clause that banned wide cornrows, braids, and dreadlocks.
There's an online petition demanding that Beyonce and Jay-Z do something about their daughter Blue Ivy's hair. One commentator said, quote, no child whose mom spends thousands on her hair monthly should live life looking like a sheep.
Right now, school administrators say the girl's hair is a problem and it needs to be straightened or she'll get kicked out. But her mom doesn't understand how her hair looking like this is wrong.
Mystic Valley Regional Charter School says the 2 sophomore students' hair extensions violates its dress code. So they're being disciplined with detention and are prohibited from taking part in extracurricular activities.
Mainstream beauty doesn't have black women in mind. Instead, black women with Afro hair are expected to conform to an aesthetic that values straight hair. That desire for straight hair is a construct that started during colonization. Let me explain. From my earliest memories, my hair was presented as a problem that needed to be managed. The concept of leaving my hair the way it grew from my head was crazy to me. From weaves to extensions, jerry curls, curly perms, straight perms, and straighteners, my hair was hidden. It was misunderstood, it was damaged, it was broken, and it was completely unloved. That's not surprising. I never saw anybody with hair like mine. Afro-textured hair was, and in many places is, stigmatized to the point of taboo. But it wasn't always this way. In the mid-1400s, Alvise Cadamosto made 2 trips to Africa. In his journal, he wrote this about the people in West Africa. Both sexes go barefooted and have no coverings to their heads, and weave and tie their hair, though short, into neat tresses. Neat tresses. Cadamosto's accounts were positive, partially because transatlantic enslavement didn't exist yet. There was no imperative to dehumanize Africans. To European observers, there is no sense of African hair being ugly or inferior. We see a similar sentiment in Yoruba proverbs. And the Mende described beautiful hair with the word potongo, which means it is much, abundant, plentiful. In reference to hair, the root word kopoto means long and thick. What contributed to the major shift in black hair? Slavery. During slavery, the hair of black people was compared to animals. It was claimed that the tightly coiled African hair was similar to the wool of an animal. That was a way to justify the inhumane exploitation of people. During slavery, a hierarchy emerged where there was a status attached to having more European features. Those with these features, including looser textured hair, while still denied access to basic human rights, sometimes had more opportunity. This is a pattern that was apparent from the context of slavery through emancipation and even up until the present day. Slavery was abolished in 1865, but the stigma around black hair was not. After slavery, chemical hair straightening products for black people gained popularity. It was seen as one of the few avenues that could provide financial empowerment to black women at a time when those opportunities were practically non-existent. It was seen as a way to elevate their status, so they were marketed with an emphasis on beauty, personal success, and the uplift of the entire race. It led people to believe that their black hair wasn't beautiful the way it was. But a century after the abolition of slavery, black hair and the afro reigned supreme again. The civil rights movement and the Black Power movement became a motivating force that disrupted European beauty standards. Some black American men and women began to move away from the relaxers and embrace the natural coils and curls that grew from their heads.
Don't be ashamed of your heritage. Don't be ashamed of your color. Don't be ashamed of your hair. I am black and beautiful and not ashamed to say it.
This era of empowerment was glorified everywhere, from local streets to TV shows such as The Jeffersons and iconic figures such as Michael Jackson. Fast forward to today, and while black hair is still not widely accepted, it is being celebrated at events like Curlfest, in TV commercials, and it's even emerging on red carpets and runways. And then, in 2018, Black Panther was released. The release of the movie was monumental for many reasons. It was the first time a Hollywood production created an on-screen world populated almost entirely by women with type 4 hair. I embraced my natural hair as well. When I was pregnant with my first baby, I decided to shave my hair and go natural. I knew that if I had a daughter, it was crucial she did not grow up with the same warped concept of beauty that I did. So I'll leave with this. We need to reimagine the way we think about progress, about modernity, about success, about development, and about civilization. We need to think about the way we frame demands for inclusion and representation, and seriously rethink the way we attribute, or more often do not attribute, value to Indigenous knowledge systems. And yes, we need to reject many of the beauty standards we subscribe to. Those that privilege lighter skin, thinner noses, or good hair. One of the easiest ways to demonstrate our nascent freedom? Wear our natural hair.
So California is officially the first state to ban racial discrimination based on natural hairstyle.
California became the first state to pass the Crown Act in 2019, aiming to ban race-based hair discrimination, and 6 other states followed suit.
The natural hair movement is more than hair. It is a lifestyle. It is learning to be comfortable in the skin that you're in.
Hey there, GMA fans. Robin Roberts here. Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Lots of great stuff here. So
Oh, girl, when I tell you I wanted to cry looking at that, because when it comes to me and my natural hair, I love my natural hair. And I remember growing up, right? I experienced some texturism when I was younger. I remember when I was like, before I was about in sixth grade, I used to look at, the different magazines and everything, right? I used to look at the girls, and I remember like it was 17 magazine and Vogue and these different magazines, and they would always have a hair section. But when I was younger, the hair section in these magazines never catered to black hair. There was never a section that gave me products that I could do for my hair. So I would always look at these like hair sections, and I would be looking at the products that were made for the girls who didn't have my hair type, or girls who are Caucasian or had looser curl types, right? And I would feel so just down. I remember I would want to use these products, and I tried some of the products and it did not work for my hair. And I remember I begged my mom when I was in sixth grade to give me a perm, because growing up I always had really thick hair. And now I do. Like, I always had really thick hair. My hair always grew really fast and I had a lot of hair growing up. And my mom put a perm in my hair because I just begged her. I was like, I want my hair to be straight like the other girls. I want my hair to, be like them. And so my mom put a perm in my hair. When I tell you, my hair came out. I went from having extremely thick, healthy hair to my hair just falling out. Right. And I remember when I was in seventh grade, I really like struggled with my self-esteem, and I had the worst social anxiety. I thought I was so ugly because my hair had come out, and I was also heavier set. Like, I was a thick, chubby kid. So like I had low self-esteem, and I remember I felt so down because my hair went from being so healthy to just being so unhealthy, just breaking off. And just, I remember I had it in a ponytail, and like half of my hair was shaven off. And then this was before the natural hair movement, which the natural hair movement kind of started probably around 2010. I would say 2010. So this was before this was like probably like, I don't know, before then. So I remember I went natural when I was in a freshman in high school. That's when I did I transitioned, right? But seventh grade and eighth grade, my hair really struggled. Like, that was my bald headed phase. Okay. And I remember when I went natural, when I started seeing the natural hair gurus on YouTube, like I just became so much more confident in myself, and I found this newfound confidence and happiness that I had never had before. I remember I was so excited to transition, and I was just experimenting with the different products like Shea Moisture and Carol's Daughter. And I would look at like the YouTubers, giving me tips on how do you take care of natural hair, how do you wash natural hair, how do you define your curls and all this stuff. And I remember that changed my life forever. I was literally the first in my family to have really started embracing my natural hair. Like, I remember my family members were looking at me weird too. Like, there was texturism in my family, right? There's texturism in my family. And because my family, like some of the women in my family, they have really soft hair, and their hair is loosely curled, right? And so I was one of the first ones in my family to embrace my natural hair and to wear my natural hair. They would always ask me, when are you going to straighten your hair? When are you going to perm your hair again? And I would just be so courageous and be like, no, I don't want to straighten my hair. I don't want to perm my hair. And so I remember I got into actual fights with some people in my family because of my hair. right? And I'm so happy I did that. I'm so happy I did that. Because I love myself and I feel all black women should love themselves. They like, you shouldn't feel like you have to have a looser curl type or feel like you have to change your hair type to be beautiful, right? What comes out of your hair, out of your head is beautiful, right? And so I just remember that, like, in when I became a freshman in high school, that was when I went natural, and I've been natural ever since. Um, and I've been through phases with my hair. I've been through phases where my hair has been a nice length. I've had phases where I've cut my hair off. I've cut my hair off as a natural many times. I've probably about 3 times I've cut my hair off. I've shaved my hair off, different things like that. And I embrace my natural curls, and I prefer the natural look. You know what I'm saying? I've grown to really love my hair and I prefer wearing natural. I would prefer my natural curls than I would like straight hair or a bust down middle part or, a silk press. Like, I like doing those things sometimes, but I don't prefer that. I prefer kinky curly hair. I do. Um, and so, just seeing the natural hair movement and the Crown Act being passed and just seeing women now have options. Now we have options like women can wear their hair natural and women can straighten their hair and women can wear wigs and weave and we can change it up. That's the thing that's beautiful about black hair, is that you can change it up, right? You can do whatever makes you feel good. And I always tell girls, do what makes you feel beautiful at the end of the day, right? There's some girls, they have relaxers and it looks beautiful on them. If you want to get a relaxer, that's up to you, right? That's your personal decision. We don't want to hair shame people, but I feel people should at least have the choice. You know what I'm saying? People shouldn't feel like they have to get a perm or they have to straighten their hair, right? It shouldn't be like that. People should have a choice. Be like, I want to wear my hair natural today. You know what I'm saying? I want to wear or a wig tomorrow. I want to wear a silk press the day after that. Like, people should have options and do what they feel with their hair without it burdening them. You know what I'm saying? So it's just beautiful because, like, I really did look at that video. I'm like, that really resonated with me. Like, it made me want to cry because there's been times where I was insecure about my hair and the hardships I went through around my hair as a black woman. I mean, it's just crazy. But black women, when it comes to our hair really does like affect our confidence, and especially with any woman, but specifically with black women. I remember growing up, they used to tell us, don't get your hair wet. You can't swim. And I was so excited when I first became natural because I was the first time I felt like I could get my hair wet and I didn't care about it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can get my hair wet. You know what I'm saying? And I can have my hair in the rain and it won't really bother me. You know what I'm saying? So that was a really big deal, that natural hair movement, because it really was the first time black women were embraced when it came to their hair. Like, yeah, the 70s they embraced it, but really the natural hair movement of the 2010s is really what paved the way for, like, black businesses to release their products, for there to be more accessibility when it comes to hair products specifically. Because before that, most of the hair products in the store were for white women or non-black people or people with looser curl types, right? um and then when the natural hair movement came about, it created accessibility and created options for black women to be able to have products, right? It's now you see so many natural hair products on the market, and products specifically for black women, and that is so important for us to be able to have options. You know what I'm saying? Because that's why a lot of us were having a hard time growing our hair, was because of the products. We didn't have the accessibility to products. We didn't have options like the other women had with their hair. So yeah, I think this is always a very interesting topic to go into, texturism. And I think it is important to have laws and rights within the government that protect black women when it comes to hair discrimination, because I've gone through hair discrimination actually in the workplace. I've gone through that. I've had that happen where my manager and boss, she did not like the way my hair looked. You know, she had a problem with it. And I've had times where I had to report things to HR when I was younger or whatever. And you know, now that I'm older, I always tell people do not report anything to HR. If somebody's not treating you right in a workplace, you don't feel like you're being compensated or you're being treated as a human, you need to leave. Create an exit plan pronto, because nobody deserves to be treated as less than or discriminated against or treated with hatred because of how they look. Also, any sort of narcissist on my lives get blocked. Like, I block all negative comments because this is a safe space for healers and for people who are wanting to heal and wanting to educate themselves, not ignorant, illiterate people who are demon possessed. All demon possessed people get blocked. But yeah, like, let's just we I think black women in the workplace should be able to wear their hair natural, right? And that is something that you see a lot of. You know, when the workplace, like, you have to, like, a lot of girls feel like they have to wear wigs or weaves because they can blend in and they won't be judged for their hair, because hair discrimination has been a thing that's huge within the workplace. So I think it's very important to, you know, talk about these things and to enlighten people and to help people understand this does happen, because a lot of people are very ignorant. They're illiterate, right? They just see things from their standpoint and they don't believe anything past their perspective is real. They don't even have the consciousness or the even the understanding or the intelligence to even understand what someone else is going through. And so you see that now, you know, with this new administration, you see a lot of that happening. Like, people really don't, like, for the longest time, people did not believe racism still existed. They did not. There's so many people they could argue racism does not exist. Black people really aren't oppressed, but really that's ignorance. Because if you do your research and you actually were wise or knowledgeable, you would know that it still is well alive today. And I think a lot of people are going to be effing around and finding out. I think that's what people are doing now. They're effing around and they're finding out, right? And they, like, I think specifically with this new administration, people voted for a president thinking that the president wouldn't be affecting them. Like, what's going to happen? It's just going to affect black people. So because it's going to affect black people, I don't care. You know, I don't care. I'm going to vote for him anyway because it's not going to affect me. People a lot of time don't start caring until it affects them, which is very sad that we live in a world and that we live in a society that is so selfish and that is so narcissistic and so self-driven that they don't want to care about other people or have empathy towards other people. They would rather throw somebody else under the bus than to vote for somebody or to have people in the White House who actually care about others, right? Empathy is something we lack in our today's society, but a lot of people are effing around and finding out because we reap what we sow. We reap what we sow, and what comes around goes around. What goes around comes around. So I really do believe that. But yes, but other than that, y'all, if anyone else has any other questions or anything that they need, that they want to answer or anything like that, definitely, if there's any other topics within colorism or texturism you want me to answer or anything that you just want to discuss, we can discuss more of it. So I'm gonna wait a few minutes. If nobody has anything, I'm gonna go ahead and end the live. But yeah, I enjoyed talking about my stuff today. It was very healing for me to make this live. Me being a black girl and with some of the things that I've gone through, if it was when I was a child, if it was even in my adult life, I just feel so strongly that I want to talk about these things and help other people. So that was my intention for this live. This is why I do Black History Sunday, because I want people to be enlightened. I want people to be, educated, because a lot of people just don't want to do the work. They don't want to research. They don't want to study. They don't want to read. They just want to believe just because their parents told them something, because people are telling them to believe something, they just base it on that. But when you actually go out and actually find the information, you actually read, that really expands your mind, right? You actually watch your educational content, it expands your mind, right? And that's healthy, because the more wisdom is wealth. I really believe that knowledge is wealth, right? Knowledge is power. The more knowledge you have, the more you can take on in your life and the more you can achieve and accomplish, right? Like, the more knowledge is everything. Knowledge can open the door for so much. And a lot of people believe, it's better to just not get deep into things. Like, even growing up, people said, don't go too deep into that. But you know what? There's nothing wrong with going deep into things. There's nothing wrong with being a soul diver. There's nothing wrong with wanting to ask questions. That's the sign of a leader, a trailblazer, somebody who's really a leader. They're not afraid to go against the status quo. That's an alpha female, alpha male. That's the traits of that. When you're just wanting to run in packs, it's nothing. You can't really get much from that. Some people, they just run in packs. They're like, I'm going to do what everybody else is doing. I'm going to believe what everybody else is believing, right? I'm going to believe what everybody else I'm going to have a problem with what everybody else has a problem with. But they don't want to come up with an actual opinion for themselves, right? They don't want to use discernment, right? Because this world we live in is very deceptive. It's very deceptive. What we think is right a lot of time is not right, and what we think is wrong is not wrong. And y'all can dissect what I just said and kind of like manipulate it to whatever understanding that you feel with what I just said. But there's a lot of unspoken truths in this world. There's a lot of knowledge that people don't know. And like I said, when it comes to learning and education, it is a lifelong process, right? I even with like when it comes to just my mindset on life, like I never settle. Like I always have goals, right? I might seem like I be chill, but I always have goals. I always have something I'm trying to accomplish. I always have something I'm trying to, move towards. I always have a goal for myself. Even when things seem stagnant, or even when it feels like I'm not moving, I'm always moving. I'm always like, I gotta do something. I gotta push myself. I gotta like achieve. That's just the type of person I am. So I feel that way about knowledge. Like the moment you believe that you know everything is the moment you can learn more, right? And I try and challenge people in that way to be like, I'm gonna let you get all outside of the box, right? There's nothing wrong with simply disagreeing with somebody, right? But when you disagree with somebody, it's okay to be like, this person might not be living my life. This person might not have the perspective that I have. But you know what? I'm going to try and listen anyway. I'm going to try and learn from this person, because you can really learn from people who are different than you, right? You can learn from people who are different than you. So yes, but other than that, y'all, that's pretty much everything I broke down. That's pretty much everything. So yeah, I had some weird comments. I had a few weird people, but I ended up blocking people though. So it's just weird, like a small little channel like me. I be having like weirdos sometimes. But yeah. But other than that, that's all I gotta say, y'all. I'm going to be going live again as well. I was thinking about actually going live again today, talking about something else, talking about a few other things. And I said I was going to do the Taylor Swift album review. I am going to do that. in the Doja Cat album review. I'm still working on it, but I will be posting that soon. I will be going live about that soon. So just look out for that. But other than that, y'all, I wish y'all a wonderful rest of your day. And I'll talk to y'all later. You can follow me on my socials down below. Like, share, continue supporting your girl. And because I really appreciate it. And again, I'm trying to grow this community. So yes. But I'll talk to y'all later. Y'all have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye.